If you are interested in the RPG genre, you may have heard of the game of Ash and Steel, which came out in late November. And I decided to get that game on a whim, and I have to say I've been enjoying it quite a bit. Before we go on, yes, the game has a few issues, like some problems with the performance, there are some bugs, and I'm not talking about the guy that I'm fighting right here on the screen. But the developers are working on fixing these, and it's shaping up to be quite an enjoyable game, especially if you are into classic games like Gothic or Risen. These are games that this game apparently is heavily inspired by. You can tell by the setting, the situation that your character starts in, and your character's journey. Starting out really weak, and you have to find weapons, you have to develop your skills, and you have to run a lot as well, because there will be enemies that can simply overwhelm you. So once again, I've been enjoying this a lot, and to make the start a little easier for you, should you decide to try this out, I put together some tips that will hopefully help you in the early game, so you'll do better than I do in the current footage you're seeing. So thanks for tuning in, and here are my beginner tips for of Ash and Steel. My first bit of advice is explore every nook and cranny. Not only is there a lot to explore, but it's a great way to find new equipment, gold, or stuff to sell. For example, you will often run into the smuggler's boar, which you can see right here. Once you hear those pig noises in the background, just immediately start looking for that boar, and it's easy to kill, usually takes one hit, and it carries around some stuff, like in this case iron ingots, raw meat, or gold. So that's a great way to pick up some materials, some food, and you'll run into this quite often if you do explore. Also, it's definitely worth taking a closer look at abandoned buildings or anything that's laying around. For example, right here you'll see I'm finding the old claymore, which takes a few raised stats to wield, but it's a great weapon, especially early on, and it's just laying around there in this ruin. So whatever you do, take your time, explore, take a closer look. Sometimes equipment is a bit hard to miss, but it's definitely worth it, and I have to say, it's also a lot of fun. So pretty much anytime you'll see some old buildings or new buildings, anything that looks like you can climb on it, I recommend to do so. For example, here I found a group of like tree houses, and started to explore them. And here I find a book. Now books are incredibly useful because they will give you XP, or as you can see in this case, a skill point once you read them. If you're interested in lore, of course it's fun to read them, but books are quite valuable, and I just found this one just by exploring. So take your time, don't rush it, and whenever you see something that looks climbable, or you see a cave or anything, just go and see what's hidden in there. What's really cool about the game is it has perks, certain perks to your character that you unlock, and so far there are not many guides on how to unlock these, and you may just run into them by accident. For example, I was practicing some weapon swings on this training dummy, which is right next to the hut that you start the game at after the tutorial. And so I was just trying to use that axe a little bit, getting used to the combat tempo and everything, using that dummy, and as you can see, I just unlocked a new perk, and it gave me 3 attribute points, which I can invest into, for example, strength or dexterity, and these are pretty rare. You can get them from leveling up, sometimes from books, and from these perks. And this training dummy is right next to the start of the game. So this is the Will to Live perk that I got there. And there's another one that I will show you next. Now forgive me for the slightly unusual format of this video. It's a YouTube short I made about this. But early on you will fall and trip a lot over these puddles and branches, which is really annoying because what follows is the slowest getting up dusting of your close animation I've seen in recent years. But once you do this often enough, you will unlock a perk that will make you immune to this, so you'll never fall or trip again. Pretty awesome. Found this by accident. I mentioned exploring before, and just like in Gothic and some other RPGs, you will run into enemies that are much too strong. I mean, unless you're a god level player maybe, but I had to run a lot, and apparently a lot of players do. And that's one option. So if something seems too strong, you run into a level 15 or 25 enemy, just run away. And you can also use terrain though. And what you just saw is I'm healing myself by eating food, which is the easiest way to heal early on in the game. However, you need to sheath your weapons to do so. You cannot eat while you have your weapons out. So what I did is I was attacked by a ranged attack by this bug, and I ran away, sheathed my weapons, ate a piece of meat or two, and now I'm using the terrain against the enemy. Now you may roll your eyes and say, wow, that's impressive AI. Then again, I think it would be rather difficult even in the real world for a bug that big to climb that. So you can chip away at harder enemies in some cases by using the terrain against them. And another thing you can do is, if there's NPCs nearby, lure them to the NPC. Especially early on, there is a quest where you need to find 4 items for a certain merchant. They're close by, guarded by goblins, and by just pulling those goblins to the merchant, he will help you. Usually the NPCs are rather strong, can 1 or 2 hit an enemy. They don't die that quickly, so you are not running the risk of accidentally killing an important NPC. So use any trick in your repertoire. Be careful, and if you explore and you get into an area with way too strong enemies, that's a sign to come back later. So just run and be stealthy until you unlock more abilities, get more perks, more stats, come back stronger, and face those enemies head on. Be careful and enjoy. Another piece of advice is you can unlock the parry skill rather early on. When you're heading to the big town, there is a little camp with some soldiers. They will train you and give you the parry skill. And all you need to do is at the right moment, press the right mouse button, and then you will use the attack of the enemy against them, and it makes fights, especially against human enemies, much easier. So try to get that parry skill, and the reaction time is not that bad. Even I can do it, so don't worry if you're a little slow on parries or usually struggle with the mechanic. It's very doable and helps a lot when fighting human enemies. My final bit of advice for today, and I am sure I'll make another video on this game because I'm enjoying it quite a lot, and I hope you are too, is to quick save often. You can press F5 to quick save and F9 to load your quick save, the usual classic configuration, because there will be moments when, for example, you have an escort and an NPC and he may get killed by some monster out in the woods, or you may explore a house, and if you want to avoid stealing has severe repercussions in this game, quite costly to undo your sin, so to say. It's always helpful to save often. So there is autosaves in this game that I recommend before you try anything new. If there's a situation you may think could be dangerous, do a quick save. Stay safe out there. Thank you for watching. I hope you'll try out this game, and I hope you'll enjoy it as much as I do. And so, have fun, explore, don't forget to quick save, run if necessary, and yeah, explore every nook and cranny. Bye bye.